Live.
Welcome
It's not
to
gay if it's for SEO. What? Sorry.
to Hump Day Hangouts. We got the 333 episode. It's episode 333. We got everybody here. We're going to jump into it in a minute. First, we got some hellos to say and a couple announcements to go over. If you're joining us live, leave a quick hello on the page. Let us know you're alive and kicking. And if you got any other questions, now is a great time to get those on there. So since Hernan kicked it off, I'm going to start with him first. How's it going, Hernan?
It's good, man. It's great. I'm in downtown Buenos Aires for a couple of days. It's good. You know, I'm not used to this, to being in the big city, but everything's good.
Nice. All right. Chris, how about you? How are things in Austria?
Well, today was absolutely amazing. Wait, let me calculate. 77 degrees here, sunny, almost summer weather. Like, I really loved it. But tomorrow we're going into hard lockdown till 11th of April. So I went all out, got my race cycle, went out for like 1.5 hours bike tour. And yeah, you got to use the time as long as you can still do it, right?
Nice. Yeah, I had a call with two ladies from Vienna who were like, yeah, getting kind of tired of the back and forth. And so I was like, yeah, I've heard that. Cool, man. Marco, how you doing?
What can I say? We're gonna go 2 years every week, and you're gonna see the same exact thing. If I start going over that way, off into the light. It's my fake background, man. You know, now with the Zoom thing, I can fake the backgrounds and fake sunny all day long. It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Syndication Academy's what's up. SE's great. I don't know. It's been fun. It's been a journey because we started around my birthday last year. So that was August to now, getting it all ready, getting it all set up. And she's into, we have, I mean SE, because she rocks, 3 update websites already, or 3 updates, let's call it 2 websites, and an update where she went into depth about something that I talk a lot about, which is just fantastic. So she went above and beyond the Call of Duty in sharing that. I just think it's fantastic, man. And I think the people are going to get a lot out of this training. I saw someone know what's the difference. Well, we never rebrand our shit and just call it like V3 and repackage the same thing. And so we never do. We've never done it. We know that it's standard in the industry. You call it something else and it's still the same old shit. We don't do that. We actually do cover new things, different things. Of course, user interfaces change. The approach might change. Software comes and goes, right? People, they'll put out good software. Next thing you know, they're not supported. They made enough money. They go. They stop supporting. And we're the only idiots who support a Facebook group for over 6 years, or almost, 6 years. We have to be the only ones, but we do. I mean, that's why we have the name that we have, and that's why we've developed the trust that we've developed. We've got to be the only idiots. 7 years giving away free information, free knowledge for people, so that we give back to the SEO community, to the people that support us. Anyway, all that to say, Syndication Academy is not just re-recorded training. No, it isn't. It's new and improved. Essie's in the Facebook group. I just saw her yesterday, actually, or the day before, answering a question. So she's in there. She will be in there daily answering questions for you guys, or giving you updates, or just whatever it is. It's just, I think, to me, and what people are getting, sometimes it hurts. I see those numbers come through and what we're charging monthly, and like, if we were 10xing that, it would still not be enough for me. But that's another story altogether. Anyway, Syndication Academy rocks.
Definitely. Yeah, it's been really cool. I've already been in the group a little bit, seen SE responding to people, because I was like, oh, this is a good question. I just saw the notification. So I went in and I was going to say something like, nope, already got to it. So SE's doing an awesome job and helping people out in there. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked it out, head over to syndication.academy and find out more about that. But Bradley, how you doing today?
Peachy, man. Happy to be here. Busy as all hell. It's that time of year for me where the tree guys are, their business is really starting to pick up. So things are getting really busy on my end, and that's a good thing. Just
Nice.
in time.
Nice. Cool. Well, I got a couple quick announcements. We'll see what else we got with you guys, but I wanted to let everybody who's watching know, if you're new to Semantic Mastery, you're new to MGYB, new to Heavy Hitters Club, you're just kind of watching or just getting started with us, we highly recommend heading over to the SEOshield.com. That's the word, the SEOshield.com. All right, find out how to shield your site. Don't have to worry about algorithm updates, and it's free training. Head over there, get started there, and that'll also help you understand some of the stuff we're going to be talking about. If you want to take things up from there, you can grab the battle plan. That's our step-by-step processes for getting results with SEO and how we do it, the services we use, the way we do it, the order we do it in. That's at battleplan.semanticmastery.com. If you're an agency owner, maybe more of a consultant, and you want to get more clients, you want to grow your revenue, you want to scale your team, hopefully all three of those things have you saying like, yes, those are things I want to be doing so that you can work less, earn more, and work on your business. Then 2X Your Agency is the place for you to go and check that out. Beyond that, if you're really ready to grow and you want and know that, an experienced community is the place for you to be, which is how we all got to know each other because we independently realized that's what we needed. We met each other online, and that's how Semantic Mastery came to be. Well, if you know that that's the next step for you, then we highly recommend checking out the Mastermind. You can find out more about that at mastermind.semanticmastery.com. And I mentioned MGYB real quick, but I just want to say if you're not familiar with MGYB, it's where you can get your done-for-you services, all sorts of stuff, link building, the SEO Shield, syndication networks done for you, right? In case either you don't want to go through and learn all the training or you don't have someone to do it for you, there's also the done for you option and so much more. But go over to mgyb.co and check that out. So with that said, guys, is there anything else that we need to cover before we get into
one last thing.
Yep.
If you happen to join the mastermind, then you get a great discount into the Heavy Hitter Club, where it's Rob and I going into like the technical aspects of SEO, the why and the how. So not only do we explain why things work the way they work, we show you it literally step by step how to apply everything and how to make it work the Semantic Mastery way. Not to say that our way is the only way or the only correct way, because there's plenty of ways that you can rank. But we know from personally, I know from 18 years of experience what works. And so we've created a system where we've each sprinkled our own pieces of knowledge and put it all together into one ecosystem where everything works together. And we just apply that over and over again. Doesn't matter if you're local, if you're global, local is relative. The niche doesn't matter. The competition doesn't really matter. Sometimes the budget does matter. But the only thing that matters or the only thing that's going to be in your mind is when this happens. There's no longer an if. It's when you start ranking for whatever it is that you're after, and when you start making money. It's become, the system has become that really, that good, I would venture to say. And people can test it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous what we're doing.
It's predictable. And that's
predictable.
I just want to add to what Marco said, because all I'm doing right now is GMB stuff for my new agency and a number of my own lead gen assets, and the stuff that we teach in local GMB Pro, and then what Marco and Rob are teaching in Heavy Hitter Club, combined with like those two things combined are just fucking crushing GMB ranking right now. It's insane how quickly I'm able to get GMBs to move. And then I've sprinkled some of my own flavor into what local GMB Pro and what Marco and Rob have been teaching in Heavy Hitter Club. And I talk about that in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind. And it's just like, I've got dozens of GMBs that I've been testing across now for the last 6 or 8 weeks, different methods. And the local GMB Pro method with what they're teaching in Heavy Hitter Club is just absolutely crushing GMBs right now. Like, to the point where I'm offering a guarantee to my to the prospective clients when I'm pitching GMB services. I'm offering a money back guarantee within 90 days. And it's insane because it's not something that, people typically do. And I'm willing to take that risk because across all the dozens of sites or GMBs that I've been testing with over the last 6 weeks or so, I've gotten every single one of them to jump into the 3-pack. It's just insane. So it's, if you guys are doing local stuff or even not local, as Marco says, local is relative, but I know it works. It works. It's crazy how quick it works too. So
yeah.
Any follow up on that?
It's just what we're doing is ridiculous, and people say it can't be done that way, or it's too simple, or it can't be used that way. We're using it in ways that people can't even think about using. They can't conceive it. But the only way that we're going to share that is come join the Heavy Hitter Club, or join the Mastermind and the Heavy Hitter Club through the Mastermind, and come see what we're doing in there, because it's like I said, it gets ridiculous, the results that we get.
Sweet. Well, if we're good to go, guys, I'm gonna grab the screen.
Let's do it.
If I can find it. There it is. All right. Looks like Tori is the first one for today. Says, hi, I already have a successful SEO Shield. The keyword URL association has been made, but now I'd also like to associate my URL with its acronym. What's the best way to do this? Buy an expansion for the main URL, schema update. I'm not, oh, I guess that's, or a schema update. And if it's simply schema, is this something that can have support do for me? There is in schema, there is a different, there's a alternative name. There's that as a designation that you can add in the schema. Marco can give you better advice as far as like what to do with the drive stack, but there is definitely an alternative name designation within schema, and at either the organization level or the local business level. I know that to be true because a lot of my lead gen assets I have branded, but I have their DBAs, or doing business as, from my primary LLC. So in that schema for those assets, I put the brand name, which is it's a registered brand name for the state of Virginia, but it's a fictional name, or a doing business as name. So that'll be the primary name of the asset or the entity for that location. But then I put my LLC company name as the alternative name. Or the whatever the designation is, the specific designation. I'd have to go look at my schema code to tell you what it is. Marco, what do you say about doing it for the drive stack?
Yeah, Rob was just pinged me, and he said that it's not something that support will do.
Right.
He answered this in one of the groups, but for the sake of our Hump Day Hangouts, it is not something that support will do. You can go in and you can update the schema. I mean, you own the S3 bucket that your ID is in. You can change it. You own the schema that you have on the website. You can change that. Now, as far as the acronym, be careful. Be careful how you approach this and that you create the relationships correctly, because you don't want to create ambiguity. It's going to take you 10 times as long to fix the ambiguity, because it only takes one shot and it's ambiguous. And if the bot takes it as two different things, then you have to bring it back together, and it's not that simple. Buy an expansion. Yeah, you could buy an expansion stack, but you all you would have to do is relate the name of the company to its, as Brady was saying, alternative to its alternate name. If it is an alternate name, if it's used a lot, then that's why you would be using it. And if it's something that's referred to commonly, why didn't you brand it from the beginning as the acronym, and then provided the alternate name for whatever the company name is? Like, I'm not sure what you're trying to accomplish or what you're trying to do from the question. If it's just association, then it's just creating the parent-child relationship with alternate name schema. Go to schema.org and see what you can use. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that you could use for alternate name schema.
Yeah, here's one of them. Legal name is a schema.org property. That's where I do, like, so for example, I'll have for a location that is a lead gen asset, I'll have the brand name for that location as the schema name for that business. But then in the legal name structured data, I'll put, the LLC, which is the parent, or essentially it's not the parent organization. It's the same organization, just it's the actual legal name of the organization, if that makes sense. So that's one of them. Just go to schema.org and look, alternative name, legal name, stuff like that. See what you can find. And that should help. Okay, moving on. This is a good question though. Dwight says, hey guys, schema question for Marco. Is it a good idea to make main entity our website, or should we point to gsite GMB Also, is it a good idea to put S3 ID in our add ID schema section, or would it be better to leave it out so competitors don't find it? Interested to get your opinion. Well, that was specifically just to you, Marco, so I'll turn that one over to you.
Yeah, but that's not how the main entity works.
No, it's not.
No, not at all. Again, I'm going to direct you, Bradley, if you care to share your screen, to main entity of page in schema.org. Let me see.
Right there.
Because
main entity
it's
of
a
page
creative
or main
work.
entity.
It's a creative work, URL, it's a thing. But if you go to the JSON LD, like click on JSON LD, it gives you the example of what it should be. Right? It's at context, at type, main entity of page, which is, now they give you a subdomain in that case, but that's the main entity of the page.
Right. So if I can just add to that briefly. So here's the thing, guys. Like if you've got different elements on the page that are marked up, then that's what the main entity of page comes into play, because it's what of those marked up elements of the page is the main entity of the page. Does that make sense? So for example, that's where I was talking about over the last few weeks. This question's come up a few times, but I used to just I used to create organization schema, and it would go site wide, even for like a multi-location, lead gen business or for a client or whatever. Let's say they had multiple locations. What I would do is I used to put organization schema site wide. So that would be global structured data, right? It would be added globally to the site. But then on each individual location page, I would add location or local business structured data. Well, unless you nest or connect those data items correctly, then that ambiguates the page, because Google doesn't understand whether the organization schema is the main entity of the page or the local business schema is the main entity of the page. And that's where something like the main entity of page designation would help to clarify that. But unless those two pieces of data are still connected properly, it's still going to be treated as two separate pieces of structured data, which is what is incorrect. So that's where, like, again, if you were to mark up, say, for example, article markup, and you have image markup, video markup, blog, the actual article markup for the entire page, but then you have individual elements marked up, then that's where the main entity of page could come in to help disambiguate that. Is that correct, Marco?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not only that, the main entity, yeah, but I don't want to get into all that because it gets too technical. The main entity can also be a named entity. The main entity could be a supporting entity of the main entity, and that's just getting way more intricate than we can go into. I mean, I would do this in a 1-hour webinar focusing only on that, on schema, right? And all these different attributes that you can use to solidify the entity, the main entity, the supporting entities, and however it is that you're looking to push that page or post. Go to schema.org, man. Go to schema.org and look through it. And you'll see the wealth of information that you can provide through that main entity in schema.org.
Yeah, and I was just going to see if there's any like help files that talk about connected data. I mean, Schema app has some help files, but it's very specific to their app itself, which I use Schema app myself just because I don't have the patience to go through it the way that Rob does, although I know he's created a lot of really good templates. But I use Schema app just for my own projects, and they've got some really good help files, but it talks about how it teaches Schema on and how to create it through their app. So it does give you some kind of like conceptual understanding, but it's also very specific to their app. But that might help you to get a better understanding of what it is that you're supposed to do. So, all right, we're moving on. Oh, I guess we had additional questions in here. Would it be a good idea to put S3 ID in our ID schema section, or would it be better to leave it out so competitors don't find it? Put it there. I mean, if you don't put your ID page in, then how is Google going to know to go to your ID page if you're not designating that as your ID page? Am I right in saying that, Marco?
Well, I don't understand why you wouldn't. And that ID is you're giving it an identification, right? That's your node identifier. Why would you not identify that? Like, see, with this, what comes to mind is like, we don't care about the competition. We could give a crap about what they do. We just go and focus on how we do things correctly. Because once you start out, you'll be so far ahead of the competition by the time they're catching up. you'll be forward in something else. That's why it's so crucial to like be on the leading edge, on the cutting edge of all this. Like I understand schema app and all that shit, but the place where you're gonna get what's working right now is in the heavy hitter club.
Oh, I agree with that.
It's through our teaching and how we show you what is not only teaching, the education that you get, the examples that you get through the way we show you how to manipulate schema. Because it's not just using schema, it's manipulating it and stacking it in such a way that your competition becomes it's worryless SEO for a reason. Not only do we not worry about Google and Google updates and everything else that Google is trying to throw at you, we don't care about the competition because we only focus on what we do. We focus on doing the things that we do, creating the system, putting it in place, and letting that take over. And over time is when you start seeing these ridiculous things happen where you can rank in 90 days for pet food. Oh, like who does that? Where you can get displays in GMB for the keyword pet. Who else is doing that right now? But it happens because there's a system in place. And if you just go and use schema app without everything else that it entails, without focusing on the entity correctly, without getting your on-site correct, without getting the off-site correct so that everything works, it's a big piece of the puzzle, and you put that last piece of the puzzle in, and now you can enjoy the work. You can enjoy the fruits of the labor. But the only way that can happen is by putting all of these different pieces together. Going and doing the ad ID is fine, and creating that node identifier for all of this information is fine, but it's how you replicate all of these across the web. It's how we present the entity and the supporting entities, the named entity, the supporting entities, sub-entities, and everything else that we're pushing at Google, so that when the bot comes in and looks at the data that we're feeding it, we become the best answer for whatever query it is that we're after. That's what we do. We establish ourselves as the best, and as not only the best entity, but the best answer for whatever it is that we're after. Which is how 5 years later, the guy in DC Plumber, his phone is still ringing off the hook. I just looked at his analytics and his search console, and it's ridiculous what's happening, and all of that before we even knew exactly what it was that we were doing. Now we know. Now we know exactly what it is. Back then we were testing and looking and seeing, and yes, we were working with entities and brands and putting all of these little pieces of the puzzle. We were getting the patents, getting the information, doing the math. Now we know, and now we're focused, and we share all of this in the Heavy Hitter Club and nowhere else. I mean, yes, go and create your node identifier, but that's only one small piece of a much bigger puzzle.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when I mention like schema app as a good resource, I totally agree with what Marco said. Schema app, I've learned more about like the concept of structured data and like connected data items and things like that from training that I've got from schema app. But again, it's very specific to how to use their tool. So I've learned some high level conceptual like understandings of schema from schema app. But as far as how to put all those different pieces of the puzzle together in a way that gets results, that's not something that like schema app training teaches. It's putting together, it's applying what I've learned from Marco and Rob and some of our other mastermind members and the POFU live event that we had. And so it's all of those pieces combined. And that's what Marco's saying is, I think it's still important to get an understanding of schema on a higher level, but then as far as how to put it together in an effective way and apply what you know in a way that's going to get results, that's a different story. And that's where, again, Heavy Hitter Club is the place for that. Those guys, it makes my head spin sometimes. And I've been doing SEO for about a decade now. So anyways, I would encourage you to go join there if you really want to figure it out. We're going to keep moving. Next question. Dave says, when adding multiple syndication networks to a YouTube channel, is it better to add multiple two-tier rings in parallel, i.e. all fired by the same trigger, or to add additional tiers to a single network? Excuse me. All right. So Dave, I haven't done any, video SEO campaigns in several years now because I stopped attempting video SEO, it wasn't really, I use Google Ads for YouTube stuff now. So I want to just, I want to preface my answer to your question with that. I just want to be 100% clear that I don't do a whole lot of video SEO anymore at all. I still go through like the on-page process of optimizing a video before I upload it, or publish it to the channel, whatever channel I'm publishing a YouTube video to. But as far as like hardcore SEO stuff for video, I just don't do that anymore because I use ads for that. That said, when I was doing, which for a long time, that was a pretty significant part of my income, was I was doing video SEO services for a number of clients, but also for a video production company so I had a whole lot of clients that they managed, but I just provided like wholesale SEO services to. During that time, I did a lot of testing. And what I found was you could get faster ranking results by having a whole bunch of like single tier networks connected to your channel, whatever channel you're using as the trigger. But what would happen is you would get, like, when you would live stream or upload a video, it would, syndicate or cascade across those syndication networks, and it would rank rather quickly. But then unless you were, and at the time it was more about links and stuff than it was engagement signals. So unless you started hammering that video with links and getting engagement signals at the same time, like it would start to, after a week or so, or just an initial like really good ranking, it would start to drop. And so what I learned over, and again, through testing, was that what I would do is the 2-tier networks, but I would stack multiple 2-tier networks onto the channel to where it wasn't any more than 2 tiers, right? I didn't go out to tier 3 and tier 4 and all of that. And there's a reason for that. And that is, that becomes much harder to manage, and also becomes harder to troubleshoot when stuff breaks down. And the more tiers you add going out, the likelier it is that something will break down. I'm not saying you can't do it. You can. We had one of our previous members, I think it was a female, and I think she took our syndication network stuff and created like these massive multiple tiers networks that would just absolutely crush anything. But what I found was all I would do is just, 2-tier networks, right? Which would be tier 1 and then 3 second tiers, or tier 2 rings, I should say. I would stack for every new project at the time that I would start for video SEO stuff. If I was starting a new channel, for example, I would always come right out of the gate with 3 2-tier networks attached, which would be a total of 12 syndication networks, right? So 3 first-tier networks and then 9 tier 2 networks. And that was just what worked incredibly well. Like I said, 3 or 4 years ago, to not, like, the video wouldn't rank as quick when you would syndicate through that many networks, those 2-tier networks, in that same kind of setup that I just mentioned. So again, I would always come right out of the gate with 3 2-tier networks, and it wouldn't rank as quick, but when it did rank, it would stick, and it didn't slip it didn't dance as much, and it didn't fall back as quickly as just the single tier network. So with all that said, I don't know that that's still the case, because I don't really do a whole lot of video SEO stuff anymore, but I would probably still opt for the 2-tier networks and just stack as many of those to get the results that I need. But don't forget that, just having syndication networks is, I mean, that's good in itself, but you can also power up existing networks. Or, like, for example, if you had one tier 2 network, so you'd have like the branded network around your channel, and then you'd have 3 persona-based themed networks, right? And you could add additional networks, but you could also spend money on powering up that network, that 2-tier network. So all 3 rings within that network. And again, I haven't tested this because it's been a few years, but my assumption right now would be that it would be better to power up a really well themed kind of network that has content that you're continually adding content to power that up, over adding more networks that haven't been powered up, if that makes sense. Now, if you have the budget and you can do both, you can add more networks and power them up, then that would be the way to go. But it really depends on what your budget is. So who wants to comment on that?
No, I totally agree on that. Themed network, right? Activity, relevance, trust, and authority. Always try to get traffic into that, because part of art is activity.
That's right.
To get real traffic, and the real traffic. The ads training, the YouTube and Google ads training that Bradley does. It's a real simple way to get, if it's local, then people from that geographic area. And if it isn't local, then people who are at least interested, who haven't, and Bradley knows that you can create an affinity audience, people who have an affinity for this. Now, what Google considers an affinity and what you consider an affinity might be two different things. But the whole point in all this is, first and foremost, you're getting your credit card in Google. You're paying Google. You no longer become a leech. You're no longer a leech. You're actually a paying customer. You're paying for ads. Now you're a real person and entity who is part of this bigger entity that's now running ads to this other entity. So you see how it all begins to coalesce and take shape as it being a real thing. So now you take that and you drop those into maybe the tier 1 part of your network, because you should have a tier 1, even though you're going to get a tiered network. You're going to have the main one, and then you're going to have the 3 blogging points, Blogger, Tumblr, and WordPress, which are going to distribute to your tiered network. You can still have your T1 branded, and you say, yeah, but it's only a YouTube channel. Well, then, and you don't want a self-hosted WordPress, that's fine. Use the gsite that we provide for you in the SEO Shield to make that your money site, and embed your videos in there too. Now you have a link building target for your videos, and you have a trusted source that you can send your Google Ads traffic and your YouTube traffic to start watching your videos in someplace other than in YouTube. Of course, trying to kick the YouTube algorithm in the ass to get you going, to get you more visits from YouTube. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can manipulate this, but the idea is always to verify the entity, meaning create the entity and make sure that Google has information on this entity, validate the entity. Nothing better than to get real people interacting with your entity, and then solidify it, meaning that you extend the entity with all of these different nodes that you create that are part of your main entity. And you're showing Google all of these different things that are all you. And these get traffic, and they'll get traffic over time. And then you run press releases, and then you run link building. The system is always the same. It doesn't change. Whether it's YouTube, whether you do it with Facebook, you can make Facebook your part of your golden frame, your money site, whatever it is you want to call it. But it doesn't matter. We get this question all the time also. Doesn't matter if you don't have a money site, because we will create one for you with the gsite, and you can work from there.
Yeah, just to add back onto that, I agree that, again, if I were going to, and I'd have to test, if I was going to be doing video SEO stuff, I would test these, different methods to see what works best. But again, my assumption is, and this is just a wild ass guess because I haven't done any testing recently, but it would be to do 1 2-tier network for the brand, really power up that branded, well, all 3 networks, but especially the branded networks, so the tier 1 network. And then, like Marco said, it's about the activity too. And that's one of the biggest things for YouTube, for ranking YouTube videos, is the engagement, right? The activity and engagement. And so there's a number of ways to do that. The way that I had been doing it for the last few years, which is why I don't even bother with the SEO side other than on page anymore, is by buying engagement signals from Google Ads. It's very inexpensive, and it works really, really well. So, that's something I would recommend is a 2-tiered network. If it's YouTube syndication only, then, 2-tiered networks are great for that, and start powering it up with link building. You could also do embed gigs for that. So you could take like your profile, like again, your Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, those, and actually embed those, do embed gigs for those. That would help. And then link building to the embeds, all of that. That's like all off-page SEO stuff. But then again, the fire that you can add, or the fuel that you can add to that fire, is the engagement signals that you can buy directly from Google Ads. And it's very, very inexpensive, and it works really well for both geographically targeted clicks, but also clicks and views from a known audience that Google has already determined is interested, or at least likely interested, in your product, service, topic, whatever. Does that make sense? So it's a good question, though. So we're going to keep moving. BB's up with a list of questions as always. What's up, BB? He says, hey guys, do you say that if you can get a link from a Forbes or some other 90 domain rank plus, then it will be better to link to the Shield rather than to the money site?
No, that's not what I said at all.
Yeah. And if I was getting a link from a really powerful source like that, and it was in a relevant article, you know, that, and it was on topic, which I don't know how you could get a link from one of those if it wasn't relevant, then I would link directly to my money site with that. That's me personally. That I would absolutely. Margo might have a different opinion, but I would link to my money site with that. What would you say?
Well, it's always been my caveat. Do not link or build links to your money site unless, maybe I didn't say unless, or maybe that day I forgot to say. I always say unless you can get a link from one of these trusted authoritative sources, especially in the niche, or it doesn't even have to be relevant. Just getting a link from Forbes, New York Times, any of those, but especially if it's relevant, like a Wikipedia link, getting a Wikipedia link.
Yeah.
All of these reinforce and solidify the entity. So why wouldn't you want to link from these highly authoritative sources to directly to your money site? Now, in order to avoid any type of penalties, we say, do not build links to the money site. Now listen, please. Do not build links to the money site unless it's from one of these high-powered domains. Amazon would be another one, unless you get them from there, or unless the links are coming to your website naturally. So those you can't avoid, but you didn't build them. So there's the key. Do not build links unless they're from these highly authoritative sources. Now, 90 DR or whatever, that DR after it, or whatever it is, like I could care less, because that's a vanity. That's a third-party metric. It's not a Google metric. We know Forbes is powerful. So just the name itself, or what it is, will tell us whether we want the link coming to the money site or through the SEO Shield to power up. And if you could, both into your dry stack and gsite and into your money site. I know it costs a whole lot more, but that would be the way to get power into both. I never said not to the money site from these high-powered domains.
Aaron says, I enrolled in Syndication Academy. Do I get a t-shirt? I don't know, man. I know when you join the mastermind, you get a shirt. At least we were sending out shirts. I don't know if we
sorry, reserved shirts for the trainers only.
Yeah. I think Essie wore it well, and that's why that's why it was brought up, I'm sure. So all right, moving on. Next question. And Marco, this one's for you because I think it's about terminology that BB is basically asking for clarification on. He says in the embed gig, it must be on the sales page for the embeds. He says the power from, and it's in quotes, the power of link building will flow to the source and back, but both the source and the destination will be protected by the embed itself. What is the source? What is the destination? And how is it protected? I guess he's just asking for like clarification on what that means.
The source is in the iframe itself, right?
Right.
In the inline frame, which is an iframe, there is an src equals, that's the source. That's where you're grabbing the information from to embed on the destination, which is somewhere else.
Iframe source equals.
Source equals.
That's right.
Right, and then you have a URL in quotes. That's your source. The destination is wherever you're going to embed it.
So and the source is the URL. The source is the page that you're embedding.
Correct.
The destination is where it is embedded.
Wherever it's going. Correct. Now, how would it be protected? It's protected because it's not an HTML hyperlink. And all of Google's algorithms focus, the ones that build PageRank and Ranking Score, focus on HTML hyperlinks. And so iframes are an entirely different beast, an entirely different animal. And that's as far as I'm going to go with iframe explanations outside of our paid groups.
It's interesting. In SEMrush, you can see iframes as empty anchor links, which is interesting. I thought that was interesting because I hadn't seen that until recently, and I'm seeing that now. It just says it says empty anchor, and but it's an iframe. It's weird. So anyway, moving on. BB says, how is it going in ECom store and the Shield views and sales? So I guess that one's for you, Adam. But that project is just now getting really started with the off-page stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. So we're doing kind of a live case study, but that's really it's a on the side case study. We're doing it as we can, and so it's kind of happening in real time. So yeah, BB will have some information once that's wrapped up. But I guess just to give everyone a quick update, we got the blog up and running. We've got posts. We've got the syndication network. We've got the rest of the SEO Shield in place. We've got a GMB asset, and we're literally just starting with some posting and doing some other things. So we'll be back. What is this? March, almost April. So I would think early summer would be a good time to probably give people an update and put something together.
Cool. Tony's up. He says, I work part-time and manage a few actual business GMB listings in the UK. Excuse me. You frequently mention G sites. Are these different from GMB sites? Yeah, GMB websites are the free, like, one-page website that you get with your Google My Business profile, which has a limit of 5,000 characters, by the way. Or maybe it's 50,000. I think it might be 50,000. Anyways, it does have a limit because I reached it on one of them recently. G sites are sites.google.com. So if you go to sites.google.com, you'll see what a Google site is. And that's what we talk about. And when we say G sites, that's what we're talking about. If we're talking about GMB websites, we're going to call it a GMB website. So G sites or Google sites is sites.google.com. It's like, it's a full kind of CMS, I guess, that you can have in Google sites that we use for the drive stacks and the SEO Shield. So you want to comment on that, Marco?
Yeah, G sites are the only one that the all-in-one that Google gives for free. The other one is the business site, and it's not just a one pager because every post that you put on there actually becomes a page in and of itself, and you can actually silo it.
It's like an inner page. Yeah,
it's really cool what happens in those and how you can manipulate that, and it's something that we go into in local GMB Pro.
Yeah, and that shit is working like crazy right now.
Imagine that.
It's crazy.
So I'm going to go off script for a second, right? And just say the training was done how long ago? 3-something years ago, 4?
Probably 4 now, I think.
And people ask, has it been updated? And we're like, no. Well, why? Why would we update something that's working? Same thing with RYS Academy. Same thing with the SEO Shield. Something's changed. Like now, what we're recommending is when you send for that GMB pin to have as much detail in there as possible, so you never again have to go and change anything, so that you don't run the risk of getting suspended. If it's real, it's hard to get a suspension, but it does happen. You've had real businesses suspended by Google, which is ridiculous. But I mean, the foundational principles of that training, which is what we always work on. We don't go with the latest, greatest. We don't go with the newest, bestest, brightest, whatever. We just don't. We go with what works. And if it's a hack, we try to tell people, like when we were able to verify GMBs, that it is a hack and that it's liable to get terminated, which is why we gave people a money back guarantee and a suspension, even guarantee on some. And we ended up giving people a whole bunch of money back because it was something that we knew Google could close at or shut down at any time. Other ways, we work on foundational principles. In the GMB, we're going exactly by what Google says to do. That we do it our way, well, that's just us, and it's open like that it can be manipulated that way. And you're still, I mean, yeah, it's getting really close to the edge, but you're still within the boundaries of what the terms of service says. We're allowed to post. We're allowed to post images. We're allowed to post video. We're allowed to do a whole bunch of different things, and it's exactly what we do. And they just keep opening up things and making it better and making it easier, making it simpler and making it more powerful. So if you could, why would you not take advantage of that GMB? And it's ridiculous. And no, I do have plans to update it at some point. We talked about it, but just so people know, it works, and it works like crazy. And if you go into the heavy hitter club, you learn the foundational principles and apply that to whatever you're doing in local GMB Pro, people are not going to know what hit them.
Yeah, there's 2 things I want to add to that. Number one is the fundamentals don't change, guys. you know, and that's the thing. Everybody's looking for the shiny new object that's sexy and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. But man, some of these principles, they just fucking work. And so like, why deviate from that if you know that they work and it's not some loophole that is going to be exploited for some short period of time and possibly closed? You know what I mean? Loopholes can become closed, can be closed. But some of these are a lot, you know, like local GMB Pro stuff, that's fundamentals. That shit doesn't change. And just one other quick tease to kind of encourage more people to join the Heavy Hitter Club is, and I'm just going to make one statement and I'm not going to expand upon it. So don't ask, because you'd have to find out in the Heavy Hitter Club. But, you know, using GMB for organic rankings it works. Let's just say that. So it works. And I've proven that in the last couple of weeks over and over again across multiple examples. Where clients said like, hey, I know my maps is ranking really well, but I'd like to get a push organically. And I've done a couple of things that I've learned, again, local GMB Pro Heavy Hitter Club, and been able to push organic rankings with the GMB. It's insane. So just throwing that out there. Anyway, moving on. Next question was from, I saw a couple coming up from D, who's one of our mastermind members. I'd like to get to those. Also, D, just so you know, we've got a mastermind webinar tomorrow where, you know, I can deep dive into your questions over there where I can't hear, if that makes sense. So Jim's up. He says, I just joined Syndication Academy V3, but after realizing that I don't really want to build out the stuff myself, I just ordered a full SEO Shield from MGYB. Well, that's good. And we encourage you guys, even though those of you in Syndication Academy, to order a syndication network from MGYB so that you can have a finished product to compare what you're doing with. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You can learn a lot from looking at a finished product while you're learning how to actually build that finished product. It can help you shortcut your learning curve and see like what a really well done, properly interlinked network looks like. So we would encourage you to do that. So I think that was good that you did that, Jim. Let's see, he says, given the fact that I don't have my syndication network in place and very few social profile links, would it be better to order all the parts separately in the future for a brand new affiliate display ad blog site? Also, is the full SEO Shield overkill since my sites don't have any local aspects such as maps? Okay, so a couple things on that. We don't recommend ordering the parts separately unless you needed to. Like, for example, if you had built a syndication network already, but then you decided that you wanted to add an SEO Shield, then, you know, you could go in and actually buy RYS Drive Stack and gsite separately. You could buy an ID page separately. You could buy each one of those components separately, but it's better, it's more cost effective, and it's also faster in delivery because it makes it easier for our build team if you order everything under a product bundle like the SEO Shield, if that makes sense. As far as whether or not you have a local project, doesn't matter. The SEO Shield should, I mean, like we used to joke about syndication networks about, you know, everything gets a syndication network. Marco used to say, if my dog sits still long enough, it gets a syndication network built around its neck, you know? And so that's how we feel. I mean, syndication networks are still foundational. There's no question, but really the whole SEO Shield now is foundational in that, like, every project we recommend, whether it's local or not, it doesn't matter, guys. The SEO Shield helps to validate, solidify the entity. It helps to start building authority. And as Marco always says, it's being in the belly of the beast. So again, whether it's an affiliate project or a local project, it doesn't matter. You should have an SEO Shield. You want to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm using it for everything. It's one of the foundations of everything I do. Everything goes through my SEO Shield. Not only that, it's a way to power up everything, and it's a way to protect from everything. So why wouldn't you? I mean, it doesn't matter. And again, local is relative. It doesn't matter what it is you're doing. You need, no matter what. So please remember this. If you don't remember anything else, no matter what, you need to be entity focused in today's web environment. The World Wide Web now requires you to have a present entity. Your thing has to be well defined on the web, or else someone who has defined it better will outrank you and get the money. If you don't brand and present the entity correctly, so that Google can see where everything fits together, then it's going to guess how everything fits together. And how code works is everything is going to be treated as separate. instead of everything being part of what it is that you're trying to show Google. No matter what, work on that entity and work on that brand. Yes, exact match still works as the artificial intelligence gets better, as the natural language processors get better, as the filters they've installed in local, especially in the GMBs, get better. Those exact match domains will not be as effective. Will they ever lose relevance? I'm not sure. We'll just have to see. Time will tell. But if you look at the people who have been successful online, Joe's Plumbing in Bismarck, whatever, no, I forget, North, South Dakota, wherever it is, has never become nationally or internationally successful. Look at the brands. Go to the supermarket. Look at the brands. Go wherever it is. Look at your TV and watch the commercials that you get. Yes, you will get some local commercials, of course. But look at the national chains, especially, and what in the hell is? And I always say this: what's a Google? What is it? What's a Yahoo? What's a Bing is a cherry, but how does it apply to a search engine? Bing, MSN, Microsoft, IBM, International Business Machines. All of these businesses that became these giants. Amazon. I don't think I need to say anything else.
Beautiful. So D's up. What's up, D? He says, Bradley, how long is it taking to get maps rankings in 3 packs after GMB verification? It varies, D, every time. But I just got a brand new project at the end of last week. Well, actually, it was over the weekend, really. So I've got a brand newly registered GMB that I'm going to be applying all the tests that I've been doing for the last 6 weeks or so to existing assets that I've just been crushing it with lately. So I've got this new one, like I said, that I'm going to start applying that to. In fact, I just tasked my VA today to start doing some posts and stuff for it. So, you know me, I share that shit in the mastermind, D. So in particular, I can actually share this as a case study because it's for my own brand, not for a client brand. So I'm happy to talk about this a little bit tomorrow in the mastermind, as well as actually show that particular brand, because I'm going to be building out more assets underneath that brand as time goes forward. So, but it always varies. Like I don't have a specific time frame on it. Depending on where the proximity of the GMB was physically located when it was registered, compared to like the city center and things like that, that has a huge ranking factor that I've found is location, right? Location of the GMB where it's physically located. What I've experienced is that has a huge factor on how quickly it will rank. But we can do all the other things that we do, and it just varies. It also, I think it varies more depending on like how competitive it is, like how the other people that are competing for that same term or same terms in that same area, like how well they're optimized, what type of age and authority that they have, and that kind of stuff. Not that we can't overcome that, we certainly can, but it varies. So if it's in a less competitive area, it's typically going to happen a lot quicker. If it's in a more competitive area, it's typically going to be slower. So it varies, if that makes sense. So, but the one that stand by one moment, Marco, the one that I'll share tomorrow, D, in the mastermind is like the 3rd or 4th most competitive area for tree services. Well, I don't know if it's the most competitive, but it has the highest search volume, the 3rd or 4th highest search volume for tree services in Virginia. And so I specifically wanted to target one of those higher competitive ones with a brand new listing to see if all of the stuff that I've been doing, which I'm talking about in the mastermind, if I apply those methods to a brand new listing, if I'm able to get the same type of movement in the same time frame that I'm able to get with more aged GMBs that have already had a presence, that they've had an existing presence. So it'll be a great case study to track and talk about in the mastermind. I'm sorry, Marco, what were you saying?
Yeah, you guys have heard my pitch to clients. 90 days. Give me 90 days to show results. Everything I do is results driven. If I can't show results within 90 days with everything that we have in our arsenal, then our shit just doesn't work, man. I just know from experience. that it's inside of 90 days. So that 90-day, whatever that 90-day sandbox that people talk about, you know, that is after 90 days and is 180 days, you can force shit to go. You should start seeing movement within 6 weeks, Dietrich, right? Meaning that your GMB will start telling you that, and you should start seeing signals, visits to the website, phone calls, a lot of spammy phone calls in the beginning. This is how you know, because they'll be the first ones to find you. The Yellow Pages people and all of these
Yelp
other
and
directories.
Home Advisor.
Yelp, Home Advisor, relentless. So they'll all find you. So you know, I'm starting to move up because I'm getting the spam calls, and then the good calls start coming in. They actually help the spammy calls because Google sees that click to call on the number, so they'll help you with that art. But then the phone calls start coming in, and then over time, it just starts to snowball. And all you have to do is you just keep doing the same things that we talk about in the Semantic Mastery Mastermind and in the Heavy Hitter Club, man.
Yep. And that's you know, like I said, it's there's within 90 days is absolutely possible. I should have clarified that, D. Like again, I'm actually pitching that to prospects right now is I'll guaranteed within 90 days in the 3-pack across a 25 square mile area or your money back. So that just goes to show you how confident I am in being able to do it within 90 days. Does that make sense? I don't encourage other people to do that unless you have that level of confidence. And right now it's just crazy what we're able to do. So anyway, moving on. Next question was, we only got a couple minutes left too. I want to try to complete these last few questions and comments. He says, for a multi-location business, is it worth the effort to create a syndication network for each city location? Or if not competitive, just create one syndication network for the main entity and have city categories in the blog? Your thoughts, anyone? That's a great question, D. I've covered that many times. And so, yes, I absolutely have an opinion on that. And that, in my opinion, stick with one branded network. It's so much less work, and you just completely power up that network. You know, the branded network through link building and embed gigs over time. And if you silo your site properly, whether you're using categories, so traditional silo structure using WordPress categories, or using tag silos, in either case, you can do it because you get specific category feeds, plus you get specific tag feeds, RSS feeds that you can use to power up location-specific networks if needed. So to clarify, for multi-location businesses or lead gen assets that I build now, I do one branded syndication network. And then I do exactly what you just mentioned, which is I'll set up categories, and usually the way that I silo local sites is I do topical categories or service-based categories, and then I with categories, and then I do location-based silos using tags. But what it does is it gives me the ability to, you know, publish content that are to target each location by just placing it in either the proper category or tagging it correctly, if that makes sense. So that now I have silos, either category silos or tag silos, that are all the content is optimized for that particular location. Does that make sense? And so again, that can all go out to one branded syndication network that you just juice, right? You just power that shit up. Over time, you can build massive amount of power to a syndication network. Where I will do location-specific syndication networks is if I have a particular location that just isn't responding as well to having that the format that I just described. If it's not responding as well to that as perhaps some of the other locations, then I may go in and actually build have MGYB build a specific location-specific network for that. And in that case, then I would just publish content directly to that network specific from. And by the way, you can cross post into both, right? So for example, if you're using a category, you could have the category RSS feed feed or trigger that one location specific network, and you still have your content publishing to your main branded network. Does that make sense? So you could cross post to both locations because it's still the same brand. You just have a location specific network, and you can do that using the category or the tag or RSS feeds. So again, one network is so much easier to manage. That's what I recommend. But if you have particular locations that aren't responding as quickly as or as well to them as to the content marketing that you're doing, then you can always build a location specific. So only do it as needed is what I'm saying. Okay. Any comments on that?
No, that's fine.
Okay, Aaron, by the way, I think Aaron's one of our new mastermind members. So If you were asking about the Syndication Academy t-shirt, we were joking around earlier. But if you're a mastermind member, we will likely send you a mastermind t-shirt. We are still doing that, aren't we, Adam?
Correct. Yeah. If he's not, if he hasn't seen something about that, then just send an email to support@semanticmastery.com.
There you go. So Tony says, thanks for a very comprehensive explanation. As always, really appreciated. I guess they were different. So he was talking about the G site versus the GMB site. And then lastly, Jim says, okay, thanks for the answer. For a brand new site, are there any sort of timing issues for a full SEO Shield? I haven't experienced any of that. And because it takes about 3 weeks or so, roughly, for it to be delivered, well, depending on what you order, but the SEO Shield could take a month because it's the syndication network, then the RYS stack and G site, and then the ID page. So it's about a month, I think. Is that correct, Marco, right now? About a month?
Yeah.
For all components to be delivered. But I don't wait. When I start a new project, it's right off the bat. I just order the SEO Shield as soon as I have all of the details ready for the order. Then I order that Shield because it does take some time, and there's not really any timing issues for that I'm aware of. Is it best to let the site age a bit or get content onto it? No, not really. Just for the syndication network, and this is what we do at MGYB, and we teach this in Syndication Academy, but that is when you first create those brand new accounts, it's best to post content that it wasn't syndicated content, so post natively on that platform. And again, we do this at MGYB. We'll go find a relevant article from the same platform. So for example, on Blogger, we go find an article that is relevant to the topic that blog is, or that branded profile is supposed to be about. We go find an article on Blogger and repost it onto the new Blogger that was set up for that project. And then we link back, give attribution to the source. That way it's an internal link in Blogger from one Blogger blog to another Blogger blog. So, and then we allow that to sit usually for several days. We recommend about a week to let the and we call it seasoning, right? So network seasoning, we let it season for about a week before we start automating posts through IFTTT. And then when you do start automating posts through IFTTT, start slow. Do like one post per week for the first, maybe first week do one post, and then the second week maybe do two, and then to whatever frequency of publishing that you ultimately are going to end up with. You just want to ramp it up kind of slow so that you don't get your networks terminated. That's about the only extent of any sort of timing issues that I would worry about. As far as the syndicate, drive stack, G site, ID page, all of that, there's no need to wait. Any comments on that?
No.
Okay. I think we're good then, guys. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Mastermind webinar with me tomorrow. For all of you in the mastermind, if you're not, join. And we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.